It's so neat.
Yo, what's good? What's going on, homies? What's good? What's happening? Welcome back to the corner. You already know what time it is. We're in December, man. It's Christmas season. Gotta get your Christmasness on. Check this steed. I dropped it over on Instagram. Got the new fucking holiday fucking ugly Christmas sweater. Check this out. So sick. Hold up. Bam. Some motherfucking lights up. You know what I'm saying? That's slick. So slick. But yo, welcome back to Kovacs Corner. We're gonna do another react video back to KingK for part 2 for the Majora's Mask retrospective. As I said before, something that really interests me. Hopefully it interests you as well. And yeah, pretty much I like his whole take on everything from the first one over to this one. I am wearing my headset. My mic doesn't work in it, but we are going to try to do it like this because I think that the sound quality will come out a little bit better for the YouTube video overall. So yeah, that's what's good. Feel free to hit me up any one of my other social media platforms down in the description below. Join the Discord, so on and so forth. You know the deal. And welcome if you're new, man. appreciate you taking the time. Yo, what's going on, Lulu? Chat streams, what's happening? Epic. Yo, Epic, that's so sick that you're doing Red's manga. That's so sick for the playthrough. Yo, send that link over on X, bro. Because I will run that. My whole gold file got corrupted. Kind of pissed about it. It is what it is, though. You know what I'm saying? But what's going on, W Sweater? Yo, I know, right? I know. It's the season. 'Tis the season, most wonderful time of the year, you know what I'm saying? I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. Already did some shopping and stuff. Got some shit. I didn't have to spend an arm and a leg. Thank God. Alright, but we are about to hop into Majora's Mask Retrospective by KingK's. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, follow him, check out the video yourself. It's in the pinned comments down in the description as well. Follow him. Check him out. He has a plethora of videos over there where he's dropping retrospectives about a bunch of different video games from the past. But yeah, we are about to get into it. Let's see what he has to say. And bam. Let me know how it sounds over on your guys' end. Because I'm trying to fix the sound so it sounds good.
Majora's Mask is weird. The perfect four-letter sentence description of Nintendo's second 3D Zelda game.
Like,
the
to me it
question
sounds
you ask
muffled.
yourself at
Hold on.
Nintendo after such...
To me it sounds muffled in my headphones, but like, I'm listening through a Santa Claus hat, you know what I'm saying? Yo, Smash, what's going on, homie? What is it? Yo, dog, check it. Hold on, I just showed everybody. I don't know if you were gonna see it or not, but yo, brand new Christmas sweater, peep the steez. Hold on. Bam. Bitch lights up like a motherfucker, man. I'm gonna be a hit at that party when it comes Christmas time. Got the new Simpsons, Homer Simpson, ugly Christmas sweater. Check it out. It's like $25. You can probably get it on Amazon too. But yeah. Okay, let's hop into the video. Run it. Let me know how it sounds.
Majora's Mask is weird. The perfect four-letter sentence description of Nintendo's second 3D Zelda game. The question you ask yourself at Nintendo after such a...
Yo, Chaz, aren't you running a Pokemon game right now? I've been seeing your shorts everywhere. Popping up, clipping. Okay, for real this time. How's the sound though? How's everything sound on your guys' end? From like the mic to listening to the video to hearing this. Sounds good? Nice, appreciate that. Fire. I actually enjoy Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time for the win though. Yo, Majora's Mask was my favorite.
Mask
Love this game.
Weird. The
It's my
perfect
favorite.
four-letter sentence description of
2000,
Nintendo's
man, when it
second
dropped.
3D Zelda game. The question you ask yourself at Nintendo
Pokemon Y
after such
right
a
now?
smash
Nice.
hit is, how do we follow up? And how do we do it as fast as possible to capitalize on the success? The answer is to borrow assets from Ocarina of Time, right down to specific textures, area layouts, and character models, and craft an entirely new setting and story from those borrowed elements. In the words of Zelda's new director, Eiji Aonuma, Mr. Miyamoto's goal of completing the game in a short period of time was a result of having spent so much time developing the 3D Ocarina engine. He wanted to make effective use of that engine in creating a new game. While we decided that this would be very important for future Zelda development, we were faced with the very difficult question of just what kind of game could follow Ocarina of Time and its worldwide sales of 7 million units. In response...
And like, yo, no, it was pretty cool. I feel that Majora's Mask like held up to the hype. Because right after Majora's Mask drop is when the Game Boy Color games ended up dropping. Seasons in Time.
In response to this challenge, we came up with the idea that the solutions to puzzles would be found in a series of recurring events. We adopted a 3-day time system. This 3-day system in Majora's Mask introduced players to a variety of events that occurred at the same time over this period of 3 days that the player played through multiple times. Once all the puzzles were solved, then the hidden goal would appear. With this system, it was possible...
Yo, I'm sorry for keep pausing it, but like, yo, I remember when I first got the game, and I didn't understand for like the first couple hours what the fuck to do, where it just ran out the third day, where I go down as you're going through to go and collect the teardrop from the moon that the moon drops, because you look at it through what is it, the fucking, anyway, through the telescope. You see that shit, you see Skull Kid dance and all that drops down. So like I was down in the basement where that water part is, like all the way down underground as a dookie, and fucking just had the shield up as it just clocked down, and then you see the whole cinematic with the moon just crashing into the clock tower and everything.
Possible to make the game data more compact while still providing deep gameplay. The unique
Blew my mind.
circumstances under which Majora's Mask was developed will serve as both a blessing and a curse. The most important thing to note about Majora is that it exists because of time constraints and the desire to make effective use of their new Zelda engine. I won't say this game couldn't have existed outside of that context, but since the core gameplay was based around saving time and storage, I doubt we would have ever seen the idea implemented in such an extreme fashion if Miyamoto wasn't clear that he wanted to take advantage of this new engine. Everything in Majora's Mask revolves around this 3-day system. Once the 3 days are up, the ever-imposing moon will crash into Termina and the game will be over. To prevent this, Link can use the Song of Time to reset time back to the beginning of the 3-day cycle, and he only gets to keep the key items he obtains, including masks, dungeon items, swords, shields, etc. Arrows, bombs, rupees, and the like will all disappear. The progress you've made on any quest in the game, including the main quest, will be reset as well. Each NPC has a specific cycle they always follow at any point in the day until you alter it by wearing a mask or changing a set of events. But no matter what, if you reset time, it will reset their daily cycle. This improves on the stagnant nature of the AI in Ocarina without changing anything about the intelligence itself. NPCs will repeat walking cycles and actions ad nauseum, and it can't break your immersion because you're stuck in a time loop. You can only
Bro, you still never beat this game? Dog, I'm telling you, it's so satisfying at the end there when you end up taking them on, and then you end up getting the Zelda like the fucking sick mask, where you actually get to fight them, you end up growing into like a halfway giant kind of thing. And you take on Majora, the mask itself, where it has the 3 different stages. He'll get into that. We'll listen to that.
Temporarily change what happens in that time loop. It's like
it's
how everything
sick,
in Groundhog
it's
Day
a really
is the
dope
same
game.
Until Bill Murray changes it, either intentionally
and then
or unintentionally. In a
finding
video
the
game,
fairies.
it means you can program less
mission.
dynamic intelligence
Get the fairy
and have it
sword and all
result
that.
in an even bigger sense of immersion.
Crazy.
Everything is the exact same after playing the Song of Time, and if it wasn't, you'd be taken right out of the experience. This 3-day time system and how it intersects with other aspects of the game is the most fascinating element of Majora. Just how well each of these elements coexist is another story entirely, but this is the thesis of Majora's Mask. Do a lot with a little. The 3DS remake helps to streamline this core idea. When compared to the other remakes, this one is the most substantially different. Improved graphics and gyroscope aiming control aside, several elements of the game have been completely reworked. It's actually a bit staggering to compile a list of all the changes because there are so many. Let's start with the big ones, good and bad. There are some less than ideal changes in this remake which sets it apart. The most helpful improvement for me is the rework to the Song of Double Time. In the original, you could only skip forward in time to every 12-hour milestone of each day. This often meant that completing quests at specific times would require a lot of waiting, even with the inverted Song of Time turned off. In the 3DS version, you can warp to every 1-hour milestone, fixing this problem in its entirety and drastically cutting down on wait time.
Just 1 hour milestones? That is actually insane. Because I remember doing it for the 64 when the game first came out, man. 12 hours in between. You always had to cycle through, I don't know, I forget what the limit is that I did for cycling through to the first day again. Like the fastest I beat the game, because after the first time I beat it, I played it a couple other times where I was able to complete it a little bit faster. But like, man,
the Bomber's Notebook has
like
been
being
reworked, and it now stores your ongoing quests, rumored events, and completed quests all in one place. It's a much more convenient system than the original, showing you exactly what you're doing without a hint of confusion as to what you finished and what you still need to get done. The N64 version uses a variety of stickers to signify completion, but it was a bit harder to keep track of everything that was going on. Additionally, the original simply doesn't have a tab for rumored events you can gather from the Bombers Gang members, which are the best new addition to the Bombers Notebook. It makes finding side quests much more feasible without ever becoming a walkthrough. The rumored events will always be vague enough that you won't know exactly what to do, but you'll have an idea of where to go next. As you can imagine, this made an attempted playthrough of the game without a guide much less tedious. The mask transformations have been changed a bit. Deku Link now has a reticle to show where his bubble will shoot at.
Yo, bro, deadass. Epic. If you were to play this game now, if you have a 3DS, play it on your 3DS. It looks way better. It looks like it runs way smoother. You won't have as many hiccups, and that whole 1 hour between stuff, you know what I mean? That's huge. That is huge, man. I wish I had that when I first played the game.
On Link punches faster, among other subtle graphical changes to his abilities. Zora Link, well, he needs his own section. Among some graphical changes, his swimming physics have been substantially altered. He has 3 modes now: a slow swim while just holding the control stick forward, a slightly faster swim while holding the A button, and his fastest swimming speed when you hold the R button and A button at the same time, which consumes your magic meter. If you're out of magic, every time you press the R button, Link will dash forward underwater in short bursts. If there ever was a change I don't agree with in the 3DS version, it's this one. But to be fair, I do see where the team was trying to improve on the original. The speed of Zora Link in the 3DS version while holding down the R button is identical to the speed of N64 Zora Link at all times. This opened up the potential to make swimming a bit awkward in more enclosed spaces like the Gerudo Pirate Fortress and Great Bay Temple. The team likely wanted to rectify this by slowing down Zora Link's swimming speed, but still giving the player the option to speed up with the R button. The reason this backfires is because going fast is tied directly to the magic meter. If you run out of magic, you're going to be tapping that R button like there's no tomorrow, because there's no other way to increase your swimming speed. There's also no way to break some obstacles if you're out of magic, and if there aren't any magic jars around, like there aren't for some reason just after you get the mask and need to enter the Gerudo Pirate Fortress, well, you're doubly fucked then. Perhaps this would have complicated swimming, but I think it would have been better to map swimming speed to the touchscreen or some other button to alleviate this issue. Then the...
Bruh, that'd be nuts. Run this game on a touchscreen? Holy... It reminds me, I seen this thing, it was in a gaming magazine, it's like 2014, 2016, in between, where Warcraft 3, they had it on a table, and you use your hand to control where everybody went. It was pretty nuts. And then like you could circle around a person, collects the one, sends off, does whatever. It was crazy.
R button could have been used exclusively for the magic attack, and you could have a freer degree of control over your swimming speed. That said, the swimming speed itself isn't a huge issue because there aren't a whole lot of sections where swimming across great expanses was ever necessary. It works very well in the temple and the pirate fortress.
Becoming a React YouTuber. Well, like, yo, maybe once a week, right? Do it like once a week. That, and plus, it's, I don't know, I like the retrospective of games that I've already played, and like the new versions of stuff. Not only that, but like world record speed runs is actually pretty cool too, where you get to see some sick gameplay, and then you can build off of that as well.
Boss fights were reworked as well. Let's take Odalwa as an example.
For anybody that streams, don't box yourself into one thing, you know what I'm saying? Keep yourself open.
And apply it to the other bosses. In the N64 version, you could damage Odalwa with practically anything. Your bow, your sword, Deku Link. If it did damage, it would work against Odalwa. In the 3DS version, you can stun Odalwa with other weapons, but to do damage, you have to expose his new weak point by using the Deku flowers to fly.
So like, that's actually pretty crazy. Because in the 64 version, you could go in, you could like pop a bubble on him one time real quick, let him grab his face, switch back over to Link, and just like hack his legs. That's all you gotta do. And he gets crushed ASAP.
Other weapons, but to do damage you have to expose his new weak point by using the Deku flowers to fly above Odalwa, then drop a Deku nut on top of him, then wail on his weak point until he dies.
Like,
Every boss
that's
now
new.
has a new eye weak point that's exposed after continuous damage to some other part of their body.
It's not a
The
bad
most
idea,
substantial
to be-
change
Yo,
is
facts.
the twin mold fight, which has a first phase where you have to use your bow to shoot at the eyes of one of the bosses, which exposes.
So what I'll say about like streaming and stuff for YouTubes and stuff, don't just box yourself into one thing, right? Have yourself open to a bunch of things. That's why I do like variety shit. And like stuff that makes you happy is what you should do overall, because anything else, if you find it boring, tedious, or anything like that, it'll put a drain on you and then you just don't want to do it. You might take some time for yourself. Always take time for yourself when needed and stuff, but don't box yourself into one corner, right? Just do stuff that you enjoy doing and people will enjoy it as well. They'll come.
After continuous damage to some other part of their body. The most substantial change is the twin mold fight, which has a first phase where you have to use your bow
This
to
thing
shoot
was
at the
mad
eyes of
annoying
one
on
of
the
the bosses,
64.
which exposes his weak point, allowing
I feel
you to
like it was
destroy
one of the
him.
easier
The second
fights, but it
phase
was
is
just
mostly
annoying.
the same, where Link grows in size, except this time he uses his fists, and once you do enough damage or throw one of the stone balls, you pick him up by the tail, spin him around, and slam him against the ground
Giant
until
mask.
he eventually dies. Big fans of WWE, I take it. There are other changes, but at the same
Some
time, I'm just
Bowser
going to talk
steez
about
right
the
there.
impact this has
Super
on
Mario
the game.
steez thrown
While I do
around.
think it might make the boss fights feel a bit more formulaic, I think in most cases it's a change for the better. For instance, while you could always fight Goat by just ramming into him with the Goron roll, it was a bit more of a thoughtless fight. In the 3DS version, everything is the same except you have to hit his weak point every once in a while. Additionally, Odalwa is pretty damn easy in the original version because you could damage him in so many ways, and while the 3DS version doesn't really make him harder, it makes him a bit more unique because you're using the Deku form to take him out instead of just spamming arrows or sword swings.
Yeah,
I know a lot of
facts.
people don't like the changes to the boss fights, but I generally feel they improve the boss fights in almost every case. Keyword almost. Twin mold.
That's right. With the first one, you just go in because you have the bow, and you just go and you smoke him with the bow. Let him get hurt. He does his all like McGregor flop real quick, and then just hack the shit out of him, right? So what they changed here is that you do have to use the Deku mask in order
the
to
boss
do
fights
anything
in
with it.
almost every
So that's
case.
pretty cool.
Keyword almost. Twin mold lasts a bit too long. Everything about it just takes too long. The first phase takes too long. The second
Yeah, it was
phase
mad
takes
tedious.
too
It
long.
was
The
annoying.
animation of twirling him around and hitting him against the ground takes too long. That said, it's not offensively bad, and I'd rather fight the 3DS bosses than the N64 ones. I see the merit in using a variety of weapons to take on bosses, but I don't think they were designed to be good bosses first in the N64 version. They were all incredibly easy to take on. Now let me rattle off a litany of small changes to note. A few side quests
So that you could just hit up the bank ASAP instead of missioning all the way over gems in there and then going back. Nuts.
right behind the clock tower for more
That was a good
convenient
call.
bank access. The stone mask, which makes you invisible to the Gerudo pirates, is now found in the Gerudo pirate fortress with the Lens of Truth, instead of in Icona Canyon. The Georg hide-and-seek mission in the moon has also been changed. You have to activate the switches to open gates and find the correct path through the pipe maze in time, instead of just having an endless pipe maze that loops if you go the wrong way. Finally, you can wear the
It's a not, Lulu. It's not. I've thought about doing React also. I think YouTube has a new feature. It does. It does. Check it out, bro. Do some Reacts, man. I encourage everybody to do it. Just do stuff that makes you happy. You know what I mean?
instead of just having an endless pipe maze that loops if you go the wrong way. Finally, you can wear the Fierce Deity mask while fishing.
Yeah, the
this
Fierce
isn't important
Deity
in the
mask.
slightest, but it's pretty funny.
You get that after
Overall,
beating,
I'd say this is the
Majora
only
the first
instance where
time.
you could argue the original
Like, it
version of
drops,
the
you
game
grab
has
it, put
its
it on.
strengths over the remake.
Run that
Zora
man
Link
jam.
has better
Crazy.
control. Some might prefer the boss fights allowing use of most of your items instead of limiting your options,
So if you
and I
have
think the
every mask,
outdated
though.
graphics actually lend to the game's darker atmosphere more than the updated visuals. However, in terms of streamlining the core gameplay built around completing side quests under the gun of a timer, the 3DS version is far superior. Many of the side quests have been fixed, and the improvements to the Bomber's Notebook and the Song of Double Time ensures that it's an easy and painless process to complete most of the game without the help of a guide, which I couldn't readily say for the N64 version.
And he would be correct. because the first time I played this game, I had no idea what was going on. I fucked around with it for like a week. Mind you, I think I was in like grade 5 or 6. I think I was in grade 5. Nah, I think I was in grade 6. And trying to figure it out where I lived at is like, didn't really have the phone working and shit. But my boy, he had the Nintendo magazine. And he's like, oh, you just got that? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm having a hard time playing it. He goes, yo, I'll let you borrow my magazine. It has the entire thing in it. I was like, are you sure? He said, yeah. So he let me borrow it. And probably for like a month, I held on to it. Like, yo, he'd come over after school sometimes, and he'd see how far I was in the game and shit. And I was explaining how I was collecting every single fairy. So I was able to get the fairy sword and everything. Whatever little extra thing between each temple, because each temple has like a bunch of fairies to get, and then you have your world fairy, where you get that out of the way right away to see the great fairy in order to get the fairy mask that calls other fairies, so on and so forth. But yeah, the fairy sword is really sick. It's really dope. Every other attribute that you're able to obtain by collecting the fairies from all other temples is actually really sick too. It helps quite a lot in the game, in all honesty.
From this point forward, I will
Especially
be
with
reviewing
your
the
magic.
content of the 3DS version, so I'll try to keep comparisons to the N64 version
Just to
minimal.
understand
Majora's
what
Mask
to
is a
do.
direct sequel
no,
to
God, yo,
Ocarina of
fact.
Time, though it doesn't have many
There was
links to
one-
the original story. Link is riding a pony.
So there was one guide, and the guide came out way after the game. That's the only reason why, like, I had it. Like, the game came out, by the time I got it, the game was already out for like a year. You know what I'm saying? So,
Looking for Navi when Skull Kid hijacks Epona, turns Link into a Deku Scrub, and
I didn't get
runs
Town
away.
Christmas.
You encounter him at the top of the clock tower, turn back time, and to begin your adventure to complete the 4 dungeons around Termina and stop the moon from crashing into the land and killing everyone. It's a pretty simple goal, but what I've always liked about Majora's Mask is how oppressive it feels to play. The moon constantly lingers in the sky no matter where you are, and
Stressful.
the way NPCs react in the midst of the
Super
coming apocalypse
stressful.
is far darker than most would probably expect from a Nintendo game. There's real conflict over whether to stay and continue the festival tradition to appease the gods, or to leave and save themselves from the coming destruction. You can find the mailman freaking out about the end of the world because his mail delivery schedule is no longer clear. The tough, wise old swordsman is found hiding in his dojo, cowering in his final moments, wanting nothing more than to live another day. Anju and Kafei are separated, and unfortunately, Anju's mom wants to leave Clocktown, and if you don't intervene, Kafei will never get the chance to marry Anju. The swamp is poisoned, and an innocent monkey is about to be roasted alive on illegitimate charges. Snowhead is frozen over, the elder nowhere to be seen, a baby crying
the whole Goron missions was my favorite. I liked that. That was actually really fun. It was one of the funnest that I played within Majora's Mask. Like, all of them are cool and stuff, from the Deku back to Link over to man, what are they? The Zoran. Like, it's all cool and stuff, but the Goron killed it with his bongo drums and shit. It was cool.
Instantly. The Great Bay is ruined with murky water. Lulu lost her Zora eggs and her
Lulu, you lost your Zora eggs, man.
voice.
What?
Icona Canyon is overrun with Gibdos, Stalfos, the feeling of death. This game is really depressing. Termina is on the brink of absolute destruction. Everything is crumbling, tearing at the seams, and you're the only one who can fix it. While your successful attempts to help the world never stay permanent, it's the growing attachment to the world itself that ends up driving you forward. You cleanse the swamp of poison, save the Deku Princess, and all is well. Even though you'll have to use the Song of Time to revert all of that progress, you'll be keeping that experience in the back of your mind. Even if your success isn't permanent, there will never be success if they all end up dying because of the moon. There will never be hope.
Those event notes are throwing me off, man. I never looked at the event notes ever.
The defining moment for this game's story and how it affects the atmosphere came with Icona Canyon, namely an interaction between a little girl and her father. Her father has transformed into a Gibdo. His daughter has him locked up in a closet while she hides inside her house with him to avoid the Gibdo that are already circling outside her house. Just let that sink in for a minute. A sad, confused little girl had her father suddenly turn into a monster, and she had to hide him away and sit in her house, alone, afraid, avoiding the death outside. Holy shit.
That's deep. That's deep. That's crazy.
That isn't just dark. That's creepy. That's terrifying. That's intense. It feels so good to play the Song of Healing to save her dad and watch them reunite.
Yo, that moon though. Look at this ugly ass. Jeez. Jeez.
Majora's Mask is weird. The perfect four-letter sentence description of Nintendo's second 3D Zelda game. The question you ask yourself at Nintendo after such a smash hit is, how do we follow up? And how do we do it as fast as possible to capitalize on the success? The answer is to borrow assets from Ocarina of Time, right down to specific textures, area layouts, and character models, and craft an entirely new setting and story from those borrowed elements. In the words of Zelda's new director, Eiji Aonuma, Mr. Miyamoto's goal of completing the game in a short period of time was a result of having spent so much time developing the 3D Ocarina engine. He wanted to make effective use of that engine in creating a new game. While we decided that this would be very important for future Zelda development, we were faced with the very difficult question of just what kind of game could follow Ocarina of Time and its worldwide sales of 7 million units.
So, like, I'm curious whether or not if they still use that engine that he created. Oh, yo, man. You jumped all the way back to the beginning. Are you dead ass? Hold on. Where were we? Because we were talking about Goron. What the actual fuck?
Fights, but I generally feel they improve the boss fights in all.
Seen that.
Her atmosphere
Seen
really
that.
lingers in the sky. No
Seen
stall foes, the feeling
It was like
you
around
princess
here.
and all is well. Even though you'll have into a Gibdo. His daughter has him locked up in a closet while
Boom.
she hides inside her house
Got it.
with him to avoid
Got
the
it.
Gibdo that
We
are
back.
already circling outside her house. Just let
Real-time
that
shit
sink
happens.
in for a minute.
I don't even know
A
how that
sad,
reset.
confused little girl had her father suddenly turn into a monster, and she had to hide him away and sit in her house, alone, afraid, avoiding the death outside. Holy shit. That isn't just dark. That's creepy, that's terrifying, that's intense. It feels so good to play the Song of Healing to save her dad and
But my question remains whether or not they still use that engine.
watch them reunite. Ironically, the driving purpose of Majora's Mask is that of hope. Without hope, how are you ever supposed to survive the horrors currently plaguing Termina? There's hope in virtually every aspect of Majora's Mask. Hope that Anju and Kafei will finally get married. Hope that the spirits you cleanse with the Song of Healing will find rest.
Yo, chaotic
Hope that
ghost, what's
Lulu
going on,
will get
homie?
her voice back. Hope that the townspeople will come to terms and stop bickering. And of course, the hope that the moon will stop its descent. Some of my fondest gaming memories occurred in the final 6 hours, where
That's
a
funny.
heart-stoppingly beautiful track plays as you wait for the world to end. This is a
Yo, that's some funny shit, man. Like, yo, up in her ear, like, hey, baby, what's up? That's some funny shit.
feeling I've truly
Yo.
never felt
Damn.
in a video game before.
Yo, the mirror shield, sick as shit. Sick as shit. Yeah, the dude's trying to get down. Yo, I That was sick. Link's out here strutting his stuff, just waiting for the moon to collapse. Waiting for the clock tower to open so we can get up top.
I am positive this is why the game is beloved by so many people. It's the part of the game I love the most, and it threads together what otherwise would be pointless fetch quests. The side quests make up the majority of what you'll do, because there are only 4 dungeons. The rest of your time will be spent out helping out the various residents of Termina with whatever might be bothering them. It sounds very strange on paper, but a lot of these quests are more entertaining than they have any right to be. I really enjoy the returning shooting galleries because of the gyro control, and I have fun with the random maze and bomb true gallery minigames.
It looks like it's easier to use. Like, way easier to use. 64 controller, that shit was crazy.
Also some really cool mini dungeon
joystick,
areas to find golden Skulltula tokens, which I feel are a much better alternative to trying to find them all scattered throughout Termina. There's a sense of design to the Skulltula houses that I didn't always feel for Ocarina of Time. Let's take the Swamp Spider House. There are 4 rooms: the central room, the left room, the right room, and the room directly forward. If there's a golden Skulltula still in a room, it will play the sound effect indicating their presence. That way, you always know where you're missing Skulltula. They hide along the poles, inside of jars you have to roll into, and beehives on the ceiling you need to shoot down. You have to be very aware of where each one would hide, and finding all of them is actually quite difficult. The same mechanic is brought back with patches of soft soil and magic beans, where you can interact with them by placing bugs or beans in the soft soil. This time, however, it's in a closed environment. Eventually, you'll probably figure out that bugs can go into soft soil because of the placement of the soft soil onto walls. Because it isn't on the floor, it indicates the soft soil is useful to you in some way, and it's up to you to figure out what that usefulness is.
That bothered the hell out of me until I read that in the Nintendo magazine, and that bugged the hell out of me. I was like, how the hell am I going to plant some magic beans up inside the wall? You know what I'm saying? I had no idea how to, like, for a hot minute, dead ass. I was like, yo, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, whatever, I'll come back to it. This is what I'm focused on right now. And then you end up realizing, yo, you have to go back. So you read back to see what was going on. And it's like, okay, I get it now. And then that one part that you missed that says, oh, you can also collect bugs with your jars, and you can use those. It's like, man, Majama should have told me off the gate.
Encourages experimentation with what little you have in the spider house, because it only requires you to use what's inside the spider house. This takes the brilliant audio execution of the Golden Skulltula from Ocarina, places them in an environment where experimentation and exploration is encouraged, and because of that small environment, they were hidden well and are much more interesting to look for. It's all in how the Skulltula are now relegated to specific challenges instead of scattered across.
It was so missions. Getting every single one in this, and where he's at right now, to get every single one, that was a mission. That was a mission.
The world, and it makes for a far better puzzle that way. I have the same feelings about the Ocean Spider House, and wish there was at least a spider house for each quadrant of the map. They really are that good. The Goron racing is a great evolution of the races with Ingo in Ocarina. The race with Ingo was fairly simplistic, and you had to race him twice. The second time, he's artificially quicker than he was before, and the track is a simple loop around the fence. Goron Racing is a winding figure-8 track with multiple Gorons to race and bump into. This race is pretty difficult because each Goron can bump into you, and if they do it enough times, you'll fall out of your ball mode, severely offsetting any lead you may have had. There are ramps to jump off of, magic jars to collect so you can keep up your speed.
Right here, you're trying to get the gold dust for your sword to turn it into the gold sword. And that was a mission. This was a hard race to do. Rushing down and like, yo, to get that gold dust so that you can end up getting your razor sword, because you just upgraded your other sword. You had a razor sword, then after the razor sword you had a gold sword, but you had to run this race. You had to come in first place, and then you get the gold dust, and then you have to take that to the next spot in order for them to smith it towards your sword, and then you get the gold sword.
It's an engaging race, and it's fun to
crazy.
do. There's a mini dungeon to fight regular dungeon mini bosses, and a quest to fight off alien ghost things at Romani Ranch. It requires you circle around Romani Ranch, paying very close attention to the plethora of ghosts all lingering around the barn. You have to manage Epona and aiming your bow at the same time. As far as I'm concerned, it's a clear evolution of the horseback riding archery from Ocarina. Now you have two elements to juggle, movement and aiming. Defending the milk cart takes away that aspect of movement, so it isn't as impressive. I would still say that aiming at and shooting the bandits is still a decently fun challenge, and I find it very comical that the Gorman troop are the bandits. These side quests are pretty fun to complete in and of themselves because they are fun activities. Some of them, like the quests at Romani Ranch, have story context to elevate them, but it's worth remembering that they're fun to do disregarding the story altogether.
Yo, that's facts. It wasn't needed, but it was a really good upgrade. It was like, took missions, man. Because when I read about it after, I was like, damn, I kind of want to get it because it does a little bit of an upgrade. I'm going to run that. It took me so long to do. Like
Other quests are hit or miss. Some side quests are essentially fetch quests. The Deku Business Scrub side quest involves taking this Moon's Tier to this Deku Scrub, then taking the land deed you get and taking it to this Deku Scrub, then taking that deed to the next Deku Scrub. So
I wasn't a fan of it either.
It's a blatant repeat of the trading sequences in Ocarina of Time, although this time the trading is much more obvious. It's still not particularly fun to run around giving shit to people, but at least it has direction this time around. Plus, you get like 4 heart pieces out of the ordeal. That's pretty awesome. In a few cases, the reward is far more fun than the quest itself. For instance, upgrading your sword is extremely satisfying, but the process of giving your sword to the swordsmith, waiting a day, then giving the gold dust and sword, waiting a day, and then getting your ultimate sword isn't terribly fun. Using the Bremen mask to gather all the baby chicks isn't too fun or interesting, but the bunny hood is so satisfying the end justifies the means. In a few instances, though, the side quests don't hit very well. Getting 5,000 rupees deposited in the bank sounds doable because you get so many rupees throughout your adventure, but because of the amount of rupees I had to spend doing side objectives, I got to the end of the game with just over 1,000. Since a heart piece is your reward for getting 5,000 rupees, and I'm going for 100% completion, I think you know where this leads. The first and second days under the graves and iconic graveyard are pretty fun, but the third day is just boring. I like the idea of trying to get Dampé to follow you around and dig 3 holes to summon the Big Poe. It's cool to maneuver him onto platforms, then rush to the top to get him moving off the platform before it moves away. The problem? He moves so slow that I just end up wanting to kill myself by the end of it. The Don Gero side quest is equally annoying because you have to travel around Termina to get the frogs to Snowhead, and you are required to fight the boss of Snowhead again. There are a few side quests like this, where they can only be completed after fighting the area boss and fixing the area's problem. But the Don Gero side quest is one of the only side quests that you cannot complete upon finishing Snowhead the first time, so
Yo, those frogs, getting those frogs from around, oh man, that was missions and a half.
Requires you come back later and fight the boss over again. On your first playthrough, it's likely you'll have to refight the dungeon boss to do some of the quests, but once you know the game, you could optimize your playthrough quite easily to avoid doing that. Unfortunately, because of the existence of the Don Gero side quest, you'll have to enter both the Great Bay Temple and the Woodfall Temple to find the frogs, then fight Goat over again, and then finish the side quest. All for just one measly heart piece.
Hated it.
I have no issues labeling this as blatant padding. I'm just thankful they warp you to the dungeon boss upon entering the dungeon, because if not, the Don Gero side quest would have been even more of a nightmare. I will admit, many of these types of quests work so well because of how interesting they are from a story perspective. Anju and Kafei's side quest is the most legendary example. The story of 2 star-crossed lovers who are separated by unfortunate circumstances is such a bittersweet one. Having this winding quest that involves talking to Anju, Kafei, the mailman, Kafei's mother, the curiosity shop owner, the thief from Iconic Canyon.
It forces you to talk to all the NPCs just to get information, plus you get lore for the story. It's good progression. It's a smart way of doing it.
It all connects in a satisfying way. What was once just a creepy thief who stole a bag from an old lady later interlocks with the story of Anju and Kafei when you end up learning that he has a secret hideout where he stole the sun mask. The resolution is the best payoff you could ask for. The quest never directly tells you why Cafe can't just talk to Anju until you learn how important their wedding vows were, how important it was for Cafe to have the sun mask, and why it's so important to get it back. Watching them together at the end of it all is reward enough for me. But this quest in particular presents a problem with longer form side quests and why I don't think they're very common. If you remember, side quests will reset whenever you reset time. If you happen to miss talking to Anju or fail in the final dungeon area of Anju and Cafe's side quest, you have to start it all over again. And while it doesn't take terribly long to complete once you know what you're doing, it can feel pretty frustrating. I can easily see why it would be a turnoff for a lot of people, but I actually really like this aspect of the game. Again, I mentioned Majora's Mask has a very oppressive atmosphere. This extends to the gameplay as well, otherwise it wouldn't be nearly as powerful a feeling. There were a few instances where I didn't think I would have enough time to finish a dungeon in the remaining time I had left, for example. The inverted Song of Time helps keep it manageable, but if you're struggling in a dungeon, you could end up getting punished pretty hard for it, especially if you're faffing about looking for stray fairies.
Got it. Wow.
In my most recent playthrough, I cut it down to the wire in Snowhead Temple. I was looking for the last stray fairy, which was hidden really well. Within the last couple hours of the game,
it's the last friggin' fairy I had to get to, and like, yo, I crashed out. I crashed out when I was a kid about it. So hard. I had to run this dungeon so many separate times just for that fairy.
I finally found it and had to book it out of the dungeon to restore the Great Fairy and immediately use the Song of Time, revert back, and let out a huge sigh of relief. It felt so good to finish all of that under the gun of a timer. A lot of people look at the consequences of failing and get turned off, whereas I tend to look at the benefit of having such a punishing consequence and end up loving how it contributes to the more mature feeling of the game through the gameplay. You're given enough time, especially with the inverted Song of Time, to finish a dungeon even when you're halfway through the cycle. In this sense, it's very fair. There's a point at which you're sacrificing a fun game for your artistic message, and I think Majora's Mask ends up striking a better compromise than most would give it credit for. Not every game needs to convey fun. The interactive medium can convey so many emotions through its gameplay, and although fun is a very important part of that interactivity, other feelings are just as important. I've just outlined how frustration for the right reasons can work wonders for the atmosphere the game is attempting to present. If you feel uncomfortable, frustrated, pressured, stop and ask yourself if maybe this is what the game wanted you to feel. The answer varies. Sonic 06 isn't intentionally frustrating, for example. There's nothing about the game's atmosphere or other gameplay elements that would indicate it's going for a feeling other than fun. In that sense, Sonic 06 fails to deliver on the fun it's promising. Whereas Majora's Mask isn't failing to deliver on fun by imposing a strict time limit on you and punishing you hard for your mistakes. Instead, it's delivering expertly on frustration to feed into the mature feeling of the game, but feeds into that feeling to make that success more satisfying. Atmosphere is about so much more than graphics, story, music. Those are all just window dressing to coat the experience in shadow. The way you're meant to play the game is what truly makes Majora's Mask special. The fact that each side quest is unique is just something extra to keep the side quests engaging. There are so many different types that I haven't even listed here. Kome's shooting gallery in the swamp, finding out that Tingle is the son of the guy who runs the Pictobox contest in the swamp. You figure it out by glancing at a picture he has on his desk with a little boy and a balloon. It's so neat. Even the quests that aren't mechanically interesting are interesting on some other level. I love going to the milk bar and cheering up Gorman, or trying to find a new song for the Zora band, or
friggin' the milk bar. Sitting back, drinking milk. That's some Joker-ish.
Or even taking a picture of Lulu so this Zora can do stuff with it. The added bonus to the variety of each side objective is that you can do pretty much all of it at your own pace. You get to decide what you want to do and when you want to do it. On my first playthrough of the game back in 2015,
almost looks like Quagmire. Like his chin. It looks like Quagmire.
I did the Anju Cafe side quest last.
Bam. Quagmire looking ass. See this?
but in my recent playthrough I did it as soon as I could do it because, frankly, why the fuck not? There was always a sense of freedom to the side objectives in Ocarina of Time, but since the majority of your time in Majora's Mask is spent on these side objectives, the feeling of freedom to choose in Majora is palpable. You can choose to multitask and tackle many different objectives on one cycle, or you can choose a more singular approach, tackling each quest on a new cycle. The icing on the cake would have been to tell me that I could play the dungeons in any order I want, because then we'd be on the same level as the original. This isn't the case, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean the linear portions of the game are at all bad. On the contrary, the dungeons in Majora are some of the best in the series. Imagine the complexity of the Water Temple, but like, for all of the dungeons. To be fair, Woodfall Temple is very straightforward, but I don't think that makes it bad. There's still an element of thought that goes into exploring that elevates it above something like the Shadow Temple. There are many rooms that have multiple doorways, and assessing it all in the beginning is a somewhat daunting task, and I find that fun. The 3 other dungeons are solid as fuck. Snowhead Temple uses this central pillar room and places a shit ton of doorways everywhere. It's confusing at first to figure out exactly where you're going. I know I got lost several times because I was trying to keep track of the vertical layout, and it was a fresh challenge. The way the dungeon is laid out and the way you access certain areas reminds me a lot of the Water Temple's very labyrinthian design. It just cuts down on a bit of the backtracking. The Great Bay Temple is my favorite Zelda dungeon thus far in the retrospective. It takes the labyrinthian design of the Water Temple, adds the very fun swimming controls of Zora Link, and the very difficult task of following the colored tubes to connect water valves and shift the direction of the water currents. I love the Great Bay Temple so much because there are so many areas you see and can't access, and the way my mind works in an environment like that is I end up getting very lost. I have to start keeping track of every door I've ever seen, any place I can now access with my newly acquired ice arrows. I'm constantly thinking about where I need to go. The dungeon also conveys the usage of the ice arrows very well without spelling it all out to you. The stuff you can freeze is colored in blue. There are blue sparkles on the water, and the blue Octoroks can be frozen as well. The only reason I thought to try it was because of their blue color. The puzzles of the dungeon are organically woven into the process of finding your way through.
I didn't think about them being blue about it. I was like, I just got ice arrow, I'm going to shoot everything in here with an ice arrow. And that's how I found out about it.
Through it. There aren't any unnecessary block puzzles. The thesis of the Great Bay Temple is to find your way through a very complex dungeon. The Stone Tower Temple is incredibly unique. The main gimmick of the dungeon is that you can shoot a red gem and turn it upside down, completely changing how...
This temple drove me nuts. Drove me absolutely insane for a little bit there. Until I figured it out, because I ended up running it so many different times, being a child and all. And yeah, it was super confusing, frustrating. It was super fun though. This is like my favorite temple. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
How you think about the dungeon's layout. You can shoot switches to make chests appear on the ceiling, only to figure out later that you have to travel back there when the dungeon is upside down to collect it. Hunting for the stray fairies is the most fun in this dungeon because of how you rethink the dungeon halfway through. So many chests that appear in areas you might not know how to get to. I had to seriously think through my path to each stray fairy, and I love that feeling. Unfortunately, there's a problem. The switching of the dungeon itself is somewhat tedious. You have to leave the dungeon, shoot the red gem, and then if the dungeon is right side up after that, you have to play the Elegy of Emptiness 3 times to leave your statues on the switches, and then you can enter the dungeon once again. Since you always have to exit the dungeon to change the orientation of it, it drags the pace to a crawl. You'll often find yourself trekking through the same areas of the dungeon, doing the same things, just to progress. It's still the most unique dungeon I've ever seen, and I enjoy it a lot because of that. It's the reason I'm willing to look past all of the pacing issues. I'm very thankful the Elegy of Emptiness isn't another case of the Iron Boots, because you don't use it nearly as often. If you did use it more though, there's no fix in the 3DS version, so that would have been a real joy. The philosophy of the dungeon design in Majora's Mask is that of a maze you're feeling your way through. Each puzzle is about finding the way forward in addition to finding the stray fairies scattered throughout the dungeon, hidden in various places. This is in direct opposition to many of the one-off hit-or-miss puzzles in Ocarina that often removed themselves from the flow of the dungeon. There are a few tiny instances where you have to push blocks in this game, but not nearly as many. You have more
That sucked too. Pushing the blocks. Man, it didn't matter. Like,
puzzles
it was all the
involving
exact
Deku
same
Flower
speed,
in
pushing
flight,
each and
or
every
hitting
rock.
parts of this pillar to lower it, or changing the flow of the water current by connecting the long pipes that run through several rooms. My favorite puzzle is in Stone Tower, where you have to activate a chest in the normal dungeon, and once you turn it upside down, you can use that chest to hookshot toward and land on a platform below that chest.
Yeah, that was super hard. I remember that. I remember trying to figure that out, and I had to read through that magazine a little bit in order to understand what was going on. So I had to flip it, come back, flip it again, come back, and then
Which
flip
leads
it.
to the dungeon boss.
missions.
This puzzle makes use of the 3D environment remarkably well, much more so than an eye panel above a door. It's also more about navigation than it is about a singular, removed challenge that opens a doorway.
And it was cool because this is like right before this dungeon, you ended up getting the mirror shield.
The flow of each dungeon is superb,
Depending on
because each
how
puzzle feels like it
you
has a
played it.
purpose.
That's
The ones
how I
that
played
don't have an interesting twist. In Stone Tower, there's a puzzle that involves you pushing a block across a room. However, it uses a red stone to switch the gravity back and forth. You need to push the block below the part of the ceiling that's raised, so you can get the block over to where it needs to go. The purpose of the dungeon isn't to integrate itself into the navigation, rather it's to provide a complex puzzle using the unique gravity shifting gimmick. It adds value to what otherwise would be a pointless block-pushing puzzle. I suppose the major complaint levied toward Majora's Mask is the relative lack of dungeons. It has the least amount of dungeons of any of the 3D Zelda games, which is certainly a valid complaint. It definitely could have used a few more, and with the exceptional design of the dungeons already on display, it would have been fucking magical to have more. But I do think this argument ignores many of the mini-dungeons.
I have a theory about it, and like even back in the day, some of my friends had the exact same theory, is that they were gonna do like a DLC, like an expansion on Majora's Mask, is what we thought, right? And then like we hyped it up and stuff like that. Obviously that never happened, but that's what we thought was going to happen, because there was only 4 dungeons, but it was a bunch of little side missions, side quests, so on and so forth for that. But we thought that there was going to be like another expansion to it that had like 5 dungeons or something like that. Never happened. We got all other Zelda games, but at the time, that's what we thought was actually going to happen. Didn't happen like that. Anyway.
You have to go through in between the 4 main dungeons. The Gerudo Pirate Fortress is big enough that it might as well be its own dungeon. It isn't as deep as most Zelda dungeons, but the way you progress is reminiscent of them. Hookshotting to various areas to find the Zora eggs, evading the sight of the Gerudo, and even the first part of the fortress, which has a lot of...
Those eggs were missions to get too. They were so hard to get.
Puzzle solving involving hitting switches and moving a few blocks underwater. You can go about finding the Zora eggs in any order you want. It's pretty cool in and of itself. Then there's Iconic Castle, which has some fun individual puzzles to solve, and a boss at the end. Fairly short, but it serves its purpose really damn well. Except for that part at the end where you need a powder keg for some reason, which, fuck that. It's just padding. Speaking of padding, the start of the Gibdo Cave is just baffling. It's a pretty cool idea for a mini-dungeon, based entirely around getting the right things to the Gibdos to proceed, and they play with it in interesting ways. It doesn't last long enough to bother me, but here's where I do take issue. The first 2 Gibdo want a blue potion and a magic bean. You can't get those in the dungeon. You have to leave, go buy a blue potion from this Deku scrub, go to the swamp to get a magic bean, and then go to the Gibdo and start the mini-dungeon proper. Make no mistake, Majora's Mask was developed in a record-breaking short length of time. Not all of the objectives were executed perfectly. There is some unnecessary clutter here and there. I don't think they fully thought through the quest for the Zora eggs, for example. Each Zora egg has to be kept in an empty bottle, and it's very unlikely you'll have a lot of empty bottles at that point. Needing to travel from the Gerudo Pirate Fortress back to the Great Bay and drop the eggs into a tank is slightly irritating. I had 3 bottles at that point, and there are 4 Zora eggs in the Pirate Fortress. I had to go back for the last one. God help you if you only have 1 bottle. It's no more frustrating than the Poe hunt in Ocarina of Time where you had to keep taking Poe souls to this merchant. It's unfortunate because the same rush job happened with the Gibdo Cave, which is otherwise a very unique mini-dungeon. I thought it was neat to explore each room, try to make sense of the riddles the Gibdo spout, exploring for the correct item to give it to them. The rooms are short, so walking through them isn't much of a hassle, and it's never too obvious what you have to give to each Gibdo. It's a shame the horrible beginning overshadows what is a cool mini-dungeon. The mini-dungeons are certainly supplement enough to the 4 main dungeons, at least for me. I would never say they make up for the lack of dungeons completely, but they do bridge the gap decently enough when paired with the vast wealth of side objectives I've mentioned that also have fun mini-dungeon-like activities. I should probably touch on the masks, as they are about as integral to the experience as the time limit. There are 24 masks that each serve different purposes. The Garo mask lets you summon ninjas to fight in Icona Canyon to glean some information about what you have to do next. The bunny hood increases the movement speed.
Always get the bunny hood first. Whenever you play Majora's Mask, get the bunny hood first. Right away, get it. Makes your game
which is
so
an
much
upgrade
so much
every other
faster.
3D Zelda game sorely lacks, by the way. At least until Skyward Sword. But even that game has a stamina meter for running, so it isn't really as good. The cow mask lets you enter the milk bar at night to do a few side quests. These types of masks vary in their usage, but most of them are used to complete 1 or 2 side objectives in the world. The exceptions are, of course, the transformation masks. The Deku mask turns Link into a Deku scrub who can spin, shoot bubbles, fly after jumping out of Deku flowers, and skip across water. I feel like he's used quite a bit in the first dungeon, but then he's usually pretty useless until the end of the game outside of very specific situations. Outside of specific instances where you need her to jump over fences to Great Bay, the Goron form also
Which is
incorporates
fast.
the gauntlets from Ocarina of
Straight
Time,
fast.
letting him push blocks that are much discontinued with the Zora form. It inherits the boomerangs via a move to shoot both of the Zora's arm blades forward, and also inherits the iron boots because he can walk underwater. This mask system allows the dungeon items to feel more multifaceted and much more useful than the dungeon items would have been on their own. It also cuts down on the amount of items you need to shove onto your face buttons. Since you just need to put on the 1 mask, it's 2 for the price of 1, and 3 in some cases. Sure, the hookshot and bow are still exclusive to regular Link, but to combine so many items into one form kills 2 or more birds with 1 stone, and ensures that no dungeon item ability goes underused because you'll constantly be transforming anyway. Plus, transforming into another character is automatically more interesting than simply using an item to do the job, at least for me. Especially since the masks carry with them the souls of the dead following you as you complete your journey.